SCP-2718. What really happens after you die? There is one fear that every single person watching this shares with every single person who has ever lived. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter how brave you are, or how much money you have, or how good a life you've built. Sooner or later, the same door opens for all of us, and not one of us knows what's on the other side. We've made peace with that mostly. We tell ourselves stories. Some people picture a light at the end of a tunnel. Some picture nothing at all, a clean and painless off switch, like a lamp clicking dark. Both of those are comforting in their own way. Both of them end the same, with rest. But what if neither one is true? What if the thing waiting on the other side of that door isn't a light, and it isn't darkness, and it isn't peace? What if it's something so much worse that the people who found out begged to have the memories scrubbed from their minds? Not because it was frightening. We can handle frightening. They begged because it was true, and they couldn't carry the weight of knowing. That's what I want to talk about today. There's an organization that exists to lock away the things humanity isn't supposed to touch. Monsters that shouldn't be real. Objects that break the rules of physics. Places that go on forever. They give each one a number, a containment cell, and a set of procedures. And they keep the rest of us from ever finding out how thin the floor under our feet really is. Most of what they contain is dangerous because it can reach you. It can bite or burn or follow you home. You can lock those things behind steel and concrete and sleep a little easier. But there is one item in their files that has no teeth, no body, nothing to lock up at all. You can't put it in a cell because it isn't a creature and it isn't an object. It's a piece of paper, just words. A document that describes, in plain and patient detail, what actually happens to your mind in the moments and the years after you die. And according to the people who wrote it, what happens is not the end. I need you to understand something before we go any further. This isn't a story about a ghost, or a demon, or a thing in the dark. The horror here is quieter than that, and it gets under your skin in a way the monsters never can, because there's no escaping it and no fighting it. You don't have to go looking for it. It's already coming for you. It's coming for everyone you love. It's the one appointment none of us get to cancel. So the question I want to leave sitting with you, before I tell you what that document says, is a simple one. If the truth about death turned out to be unbearable, and you could never change it, never undo it, never escape it, would you still want to know? Because the researchers who read this file weren't afraid of dying anymore. They were afraid they wouldn't get to. Let's start with what this organization usually does, because once you understand that, you'll understand why this one file broke them. Their entire job is built on a single idea. If something is dangerous enough, you put a wall around it. That's the whole philosophy. There's a monster that turns people to stone if they look away from it. So you build a chamber with no blind spots, and you assign personnel who know never to blink at the wrong moment. There's a sculpture that moves when no one's watching, so you weld it down, and you keep 3 sets of eyes on it at all times. There's a lizard that cannot die, that adapts to anything you throw at it. So you drown it in acid, and you keep it there, and you pray the acid holds. Containment. That's the word they live by. You find the dangerous thing, you understand the dangerous thing, and then you cut it off from the rest of the world so it can never hurt anyone again. Steel, concrete, distance, procedure. It's not elegant, but it works, because almost everything they deal with is a thing. A thing has edges. A thing exists in one place. And anything that exists in one place can, in theory, be locked inside a bigger place. So now, imagine you're one of these people. You've spent your career containing monsters. You've seen things that would put the rest of us in a hospital. You've built cells for creatures that eat light and entities that rewrite memory. You think you've seen the shape of every kind of danger there is? And then a document lands on your desk. That's it, a document. No claws, no teeth, no readings on any instrument. It doesn't glow, it doesn't whisper. It just sits there, the way paper sits, completely still. By every measurement you have, it is the least dangerous object in the entire facility. And it is the one thing you will never be able to contain. Because here's the problem. And it's a problem that breaks the whole philosophy these people built their lives on. You cannot put a wall around an idea. You can lock up the paper. You can burn the paper even. But the danger was never the paper. The danger is what the paper says. And the moment those words pass through your eyes and into your head, they're inside the one place no containment cell can reach. They're in you. And there is no door on the human mind that locks from the outside. This is the thing they call SCP-2718. And I want to be careful here, because the way these files normally work is they describe something that happens to a person. You touch the object, you suffer the effect. You enter the room does something to you. There's a cause, and then there's a consequence. And the consequence stays politely contained inside whoever was unlucky enough to trigger it. That's not what this is. SCP-2718 doesn't describe something that happens to a person who reads it. It describes something that happens to every person, whether they read it or not. The document is not the cause of anything. The document is just a witness. It's a report. It's somebody writing down a fact that was always true. A fact that's been true since the first living thing on this planet drew its first breath and started the long, slow walk toward its last one. The fact is this: when you die, your body stops. You don't. That's the first time I'm going to say that. And I want it to land as cleanly and coldly as it landed in the file, because in the file, it isn't dramatic. It isn't written to scare you. It's written the way you'd write down the boiling point of water. The body stops. You don't. A clinical observation. A finding. Stated once, plainly, and then the document moves on to explain the details, the way a medical text moves on after telling you what a heart attack is. And I think that flatness is the worst part. Because we're used to horror that's trying to horrify us. We can feel the author reaching for our throat. And somewhere in the back of our minds, we hold on to the fact that it's a performance. Somebody's working hard to frighten us, which means somewhere underneath, it might not be real. This document isn't reaching for anything. It doesn't care if you're scared. It's not trying to convince you. It reads like it was written by someone who simply found out how the universe works and felt obligated to record it before they lost the ability to. There's no music under it. There's no villain narrating. There's just the patient voice of a person describing the mechanism. One step at a time. The way you describe a process you've confirmed and confirmed and confirmed again, until there was no room left to doubt it. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, fine, it's just a claim. Anybody can write down a claim. I could write a document right now that says the sky is going to fall tomorrow, and writing it down doesn't make it happen. You're right. And that's exactly the question the organization had to answer first, before they could decide what to do with this thing. Is it real? Is this actually how it works? Or is it just a very disturbing piece of fiction that somebody got their hands on? Here's where it gets uncomfortable, because the answer they landed on wasn't no. If the answer had been no, this would never have gotten a number. It would never have been classified. It would have been a creepy story in somebody's drawer. And that's the end of it. The reason it became one of their files at all is that the people whose job is to separate the real anomalies from the noise looked at this document, and they could not rule it out. Think about what that means for a second. Their entire existence is built on telling the difference between what's real and what isn't. They're the best in the world at it. And they read this, and the conclusion they were forced to write down was that they couldn't prove it false. The mechanism it describes is internally consistent. It contradicts nothing we actually know, because the truth is, we don't actually know anything about this. Nobody's ever come back from the far side of that door to tell us what's there. Every belief we have about death, every religion, every comforting story, every confident shrug from someone who says it's just lights out, all of it is a guess, a hope, a thing we tell ourselves because the alternative is unthinkable, so we don't think it. This document thinks it, and it doesn't ask you to believe. That's the detail that kept the researchers up at night. A liar wants you to believe. A liar pushes. This thing doesn't push at all. It just lays the mechanism out and lets you check it against everything you know. And the longer you check, the harder it gets to find the place where it's wrong. You keep looking for the crack, the exaggeration, the leap of logic where the author got carried away. And it isn't there. It's just step, 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 each one following from the last, walking you calmly toward a conclusion you would give anything to escape. So no, they couldn't contain it. And no, they couldn't dismiss it. They were stuck with it. A truth they didn't want, that they couldn't disprove, that they couldn't lock away. And that did its damage, not by attacking anyone, but simply by being read and understood. The only people it could hurt were the ones who looked at it, and it hurt them in the one place nothing else could reach, which leaves us with a strange and ugly possibility, and I want you to sit with it before we go any further, because everything that comes after this rests on it. What if the single most dangerous thing in the entire world isn't a monster, or a weapon, or a door to another dimension? What if it's just a fact that was always there, waiting, true the whole time, indifferent to whether anyone found it? A fact about what's waiting for you, and for me, and for every person who has ever lived or ever will. A fact that doesn't need teeth, because it doesn't need to chase us. We're already walking toward it on our own. So let's actually walk through it. The mechanism, step by step, the way the document does. Because the only way to understand why this thing broke the people who read it is to follow the same path they followed. It starts where every death starts, with the body giving out. Maybe it's fast, a car, a fall, a heart that simply quits without warning. Maybe it's slow, a long illness that wears you down over months until there's almost nothing left to wear. Doesn't matter. The end point is the same. The machinery stops. The heart stops pushing blood. The lungs stop pulling air. The brain, that 3 pounds of electric meat that's been running you your whole life, starts to wind down as the oxygen runs out. This is the part we understand. We have words for it. Clinical death. Brain death. We can put it on a chart. We can mark the time. We can call it. A doctor looks at a clock and says it out loud, and that becomes the moment the world agrees you stopped existing. And here is where the document and the world part ways, because the world believes that moment is the end. The document says it's barely the beginning. The body stops. You don't. That's the second time I've said it, and I said it on purpose, right here, because this is the hinge the whole thing turns on. Everything you think of as you, the awareness behind your eyes, the voice in your head reading along with me right now, the thing that's been present for every moment of your life that does not switch off when the heart does. The body is a machine, and the machine breaks. But the document says the awareness was never the machine. The awareness was a passenger. And when the machine dies, the passenger does not get out. It just loses the controls. Picture it the way the document lays it out. And I'll go slowly, because it goes slowly. First, the body stops responding. You can't move because there's nothing left to move. The signals you'd send to a hand or a leg go nowhere because the wiring's gone dark. Whatever you are now, you have no way to act on the world. You're still here, but you can't touch anything, can't push against anything, can't so much as twitch a finger to prove to yourself you exist. Then the senses begin to go. Sight is usually first, or close to it. The eyes stop feeding the brain, and the world you've looked at your entire life simply isn't there anymore. Not darkness. Exactly. Darkness is something you see. This is the absence of seeing at all, which is a thing most of us have never experienced and can't really picture. Try for a second to imagine not the color black, but the total lack of vision, the way you don't see out of the back of your head. Now, imagine. That's everything. That's the whole field. There's no in front of you to look at. Then sound. The constant low hum of being alive. The room tone of the world. The blood in your own ears. All of it cuts out. Not silence, because silence is also something you hear. The shape of quiet pressing in. This is no hearing. the channel doesn't go quiet. The channel closes. And so on, down the list. Smell, taste, the feeling of your own body, the weight of it, the warmth, the 1,000 tiny sensations you never even notice because they've never once stopped in your entire life. The pressure of the chair, the air on your skin, the sense of where your limbs are in space. Gone. Each one shutting off, one after another, like someone walking through a house turning off the lights room by room until there's nothing left lit at all. And here's the thing. Here's the part that I had to read twice to really feel. You're still there for all of it. That's the horror the document is building toward. And it's so much quieter than what we expect from horror that it almost slips past you the first time. We brace for pain. We brace for a monster, for fire, for some active torment reaching out to hurt us. And there isn't one. There's no pain at first. Nobody's hurting you. Nothing is being done to you at all. It's the absence that gets you. It's the slow removal of everything. While the one thing that should have left first, the awareness, the you, stays exactly where it is, fully intact, fully present, stripped of the body, stripped of the senses, stripped of every single way you've ever had to do anything, or feel anything, or know anything about the world around you. And no off switch. That's what they couldn't find anywhere in the mechanism. The off switch. We assume it's there. We assume that whatever you are, when the brain dies, you die with it. Because the brain was making you, and no brain means no you. It's a reasonable assumption. It's the one almost all of us quietly carry. And the document looks straight at that assumption and asks a question we never wanted asked. What if the brain wasn't making you? What if the brain was just the part you used to reach the world? The steering wheel and the windows and the doors. And you, the actual you, were something else. Something the brain was attached to rather than something the brain produced? Then, when the brain dies, you don't lose yourself. You lose the car. You're still sitting in the driver's seat. The engine's dead. The windshield's gone black. The doors are welded shut. But you're still in there, awake. We have a word that comes close to this, and the document doesn't use it. But I will, because it's the closest handle most of us have. There's a condition where a person is fully conscious but completely paralyzed. They can think, they can feel, they understand everything happening around them, and they cannot move a single muscle or speak a single word. They're trapped inside a body that won't answer. We find that idea unbearable. It's one of the most frightening things in all of medicine. The thought of being awake and aware and unable to signal that you're in there. Now take that and take away the body entirely. Take away the room, the people, the ceiling they're staring at, the sound of the machines. Take away everything except the awareness and the trap. No body to be paralyzed inside of, because the body's gone. Just the you, just the prisoner, with no cell walls to even push against, because there's nothing left at all. That's where the document has brought us, and we're only at the start. We're at the doorway. The body has just finished shutting down. The senses have just finished going dark. The awareness has just realized, in whatever way it can still realize anything, that it is still here, and that nothing is coming to switch it off. And the truly merciless part, the part the document states as plainly as everything else, is that this is the easy stretch. This is the gentle opening. Nothing has gone wrong yet. No torment has begun. You've simply arrived, intact, in a place with no exits, no senses, no body, and no one else. And you have all the time in the world. Now, up to this point, you might have been holding on to one quiet little piece of distance, a handrail. I'd bet you didn't even notice you were gripping it. The handrail is this. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you've been assuming this is a special case, that whatever this document describes, it describes a curse, a condition, something that happens to a few unlucky people, the way these files usually work. Somebody touches the cursed object and the cursed thing happens to them, and the rest of us read about it from a safe distance and feel grateful it wasn't us. I want to take that handrail away now, because the document takes it away. and it does it in one short, devastating move. This is not a curse. This is not a special case. This is not something that happens to a few unlucky people. This is the default. This is what death is, for everyone. Not the people who read the file, not the ones who touch the wrong object. Everyone, every human being who has ever lived, every human being alive right now, every human being who ever will be. The document isn't describing a rare and terrible fate that befalls the cursed. It's describing the ordinary, universal, unremarkable mechanism of dying, the one that's been running quietly in the background of every funeral you've ever attended. There is no heaven in this document. I want to be honest with you about that, because it matters. There's no hell either, not in the way we picture it. No fire, no judgment, no devil keeping score. There's no reincarnation, no coming back as something new with the slate wiped clean. And there's no nothing. That's the one that hurts the most, I think, for the people who are counting on it. The atheist's comfort, the clean lights out, the gentle non-existence. The idea that you simply stop and there's no one left to mind. That's not in here either. There's just continuation. You keep going. That's the whole revelation. Not somewhere better, not somewhere worse, not somewhere at all. You just don't stop. The awareness that's been you your entire life carries on past the point where the body quits, into a state with no senses, no body, no world, and no end. And that, says the document, is not the exception. That is the rule. That is, and always has been, what's on the other side of the door. Let me make you feel the size of that, because the document does. And it's the moment the whole thing stops being a story and starts being a kind of vertigo. Every person who has ever died. Take a second with that phrase. Every person. Start with the ones you've lost. The grandparent you remember. The friend who went too early. Anyone whose absence still leaves a shape in your life. By the logic of this document, they did not find rest. They did not move on to somewhere kinder. They did not blink out into a peaceful nothing. They are, right now, this very moment, still aware, still present, still there, in the dark, with no body and no voice and no way out. Exactly where they arrived on the day we buried them and told ourselves they were finally at peace. And it doesn't stop with the people you knew. Go back. Go all the way back. Every soldier who ever fell in every war. Everyone who ever starved or drowned or died in their sleep at 100 years old surrounded by family. Every child who didn't make it. The famous and the forgotten. The kings and the beggars. The billions upon billions of human beings who have lived and died across all of history. Every last one of them, if this document is right, is still on. Still aware. A vast, silent, invisible population of minds with no bodies, stretching back to the dawn of our species. None of them gone. All of them simply continuing. Somewhere we can't see and can't reach and can't help. That's the scale of it. That's what made the researchers go quiet. It isn't one ghost in one house. It's everyone who has ever lived. All of them still here in the only sense that ever mattered. The sense of being awake to it. And I know what some part of you is doing right now, because I did it too. You're looking for the exit. You're scanning for the loophole, the comforting clause, the line where the document says, but of course this only applies to, or, except in cases where, or there is a way to. Some condition that lets you off the hook. Some category you might not fall into. There isn't one. That's the cruelty of how it's written. It offers no exceptions because the mechanism it describes has no exceptions. It's not a punishment, so there's no being good enough to avoid it. It's not a disease, so there's no immunity, no cure, no one who's naturally resistant. It's not selective in any way at all. It's just what happens to the thing that's reading these words right now, to the awareness behind your eyes. The same awareness that's been with you through every moment you can remember. That was there when you were small, and will be there when you're old. The one constant companion you've had your entire life. That one. That's the one that doesn't stop. The document doesn't predict your death. It describes it. There's a difference. And it's the whole turning point. So let me sit on it for a second. A prediction is about the future. It's a guess about something that hasn't happened. And you can argue with a guess. You can hope it's wrong. You can find comfort in the uncertainty. A description is different. A description is about something that's real. When I describe what happens when you fall, I'm not guessing about your future. I'm telling you how gravity works, and gravity is going to work that way whether you believe me or not, whether you've fallen yet or not. The fall is coming for everyone who's ever stepped off a height. It was always coming. The description just tells you what you were always walking toward. That's what this is, not a fortune teller's warning about what might be, a patient, accurate description of what is, of the place you are already on your way to, the same as everyone you love, the same as everyone who came before. It's already true. It was true before you found this video. It was true before you were born. The only thing that's changed in the last few minutes is that now you might suspect it. And suspicion, it turns out, is its own kind of trap, because you can't unsuspect a thing like this. The body stops, you don't. Third time. And notice it's not clinical anymore, is it? The first time I said it, back at the start, it was just a finding, a cold little fact on a page. By now, it's something else. It's pointed at you. It's not describing some unlucky stranger in a file. It's describing the thing you are, the thing that will still be here after the part of you that can move and speak and feel has gone quiet for good. The line didn't change. You did. You know more now, and knowing more is exactly what you can't take back. And I want to be fair, genuinely fair, because I don't want to leave you trapped in this without acknowledging the obvious. We don't know that this is true. I said that at the start, and I'll say it again here, because it matters, and because it's honest. Nobody has confirmed this. Nobody can. It's a document. It's a claim. It might be the most elaborate piece of horror fiction ever committed to paper, written by someone with a gift for sounding inevitable. That's possible. That's genuinely possible, and you should hold on to it. But notice something. Notice how thin that comfort feels now, compared to how thick it felt 20 minutes ago. Because the thing about a fear like this is that it doesn't need to be proven. It only needs to be possible. You don't have to believe a single word of this document to feel the floor tilt under you. You only have to admit that you don't know it's false. And you don't. None of us do. That's the whole problem. We were always going to find out eventually. Every single one of us. On our own. With no way to prepare and no way to refuse. This document just got there first. So here's where the central question starts to sharpen into something with an edge. We've been treating knowledge as a good thing our whole lives. Knowledge is power, we say. The truth will set you free. Better to know than not to know. We say these things like they're obviously true, but what do you do with a truth that helps nothing? A truth you can't act on, can't prepare for, can't escape, and can't forget. A truth whose only effect is to take the one mercy you had left, which was not knowing, and quietly remove it. Is that knowledge setting you free? Or is it just the door, swinging open a little early, so you can stand here and watch what's coming for the rest of your life? There's one piece of this we haven't touched yet. We've been circling it, but we haven't gone in. And I've been putting it off, honestly, because it's the part of the document that's hardest to hold in your head without something in you flinching away. The researchers flinched away from it too. You can almost feel it in the file, the way the writing slows down right here, the way it gets careful. It's the question of how long. Everything we've described so far. The body stopping. The senses going dark. The awareness staying lit with no way to act. And no one around. All of that would be survivable if it had an end. A bad night ends. The worst pain of your life ends. One way or another. Even the things we can't imagine enduring, we endure them partly because some part of us knows they're finite. There's a morning coming. There's an after. The clock is running. And a running clock is a promise that this, whatever this is, will eventually be over. The document takes the clock away. And I don't just mean it lasts a long time. A long time is still a kind of comfort, because a long time ends. I mean, there is no mechanism in what it describes for it to ever stop. The thing that would end it, your death, has already happened. That card is played. There's nothing left in the deck that says, and then it's over. The off switch wasn't just missing at the start. It's missing the whole way through. Forever. Now here's the part that does something strange to your stomach if you really let it in. Time for you down there is not what it is up here. Up here, time is held in place by things. By the sun coming up and going down. By your heartbeat, by your breath, by hunger arriving and being satisfied and arriving again. By sleep, which slices your life into manageable pieces, a day at a time, so you never have to face the whole length of it at once. Every single way you have ever measured time has been a sensation, a change. Something happening, and then something else happening, and the gap between them is what you call a minute, an hour, a year. Take away the senses, and you take away the gaps. Take away the gaps, and what's left? The document is quiet on what exactly that's like. Because how could it not be? But it lays the pieces down and lets you assemble the horror yourself, which is so much worse than being told. No sunrise to mark a day. No sleep to break the length into pieces. Because the thing that sleeps was the brain, and the brain is gone. No heartbeat counting off the seconds. No tiredness that builds and gets relieved. No change of any kind, ever, to tell you that any time has passed at all. Just one single unbroken moment of awareness, with no edges, that does not advance and does not end. How long is forever, when you can't sleep through any of it? That's the question I can't shake. We comfort ourselves with sleep without ever realizing it's a comfort. Every night, the clock of your suffering, whatever it was that day, gets paused. You get put down gently into nothing for a few hours and lifted back out into a fresh morning. We do this so reliably that we never once think to be grateful for it. We never think about what it would mean to lose it, to be awake, continuously, with no break, no pause, no merciful gap, for an amount of time that isn't even an amount, because amounts have ends, and this doesn't. And there's a second thing, layered underneath the first, that the document mentions almost in passing, and it's so much worse for how casually it's set down. The body decays. Up here, that's just biology. We know what happens to a body after death. It's unpleasant to think about, but it's natural, and we've made our peace with it because the person, we tell ourselves, is gone. They're not in there anymore. The thing in the ground is just the shell they left behind. We can bear the decay because we've decided nobody's home. But the document just told us somebody's home. The awareness has nowhere else to be. It didn't leave with the last breath. It's still attached to the only place it has ever been, which is the self that's now in the dark. And the body that self used to live in goes through everything a body goes through. And the document offers no reason to think the awareness gets to be anywhere but right there, for all of it. Not feeling it, maybe, because the senses are gone, but present, continuing, while the thing that was you dissolves back into the earth over months and years. The you that was inside it does not get released by that. The decay isn't an exit. Nothing is an exit. The decay just happens. The way everything just happens now, with you still there and unable to so much as turn away. This is the deepest point, right here. If there's a bottom to this document, this is it. And I want to name it clearly, because it's not what you'd expect the bottom to be. The bottom isn't pain. We keep expecting pain, because pain is what we fear. Pain is what hell was always made of in the old stories. Fire and torment and active cruelty. But there's no torturer here. Nobody's hurting you. That would almost be a relief, because a torture is a presence. A torture means you're not alone. A torture at least means something is happening. The bottom is that nothing happens, ever, again. That's the cruelty, and it's a cruelty with no one behind it, which somehow makes it worse. No villain, no purpose, no lesson. Just permanence. Just an awareness that cannot stop being aware, in a place where nothing will ever change, for a duration that has no far edge. Not punishment, not reward, not even neglect, because neglect implies someone who could have cared and didn't. Just the raw, indifferent mechanical fact of continuing forever with nothing. And I keep coming back to one image, and I'll give it to you. even though I almost don't want to, because once you have it, you'll carry it the same as I do. Somewhere, everyone you've ever lost is still waiting, not in a better place, not watching over you, the way we like to say at funerals, to make the unbearable sit still for an afternoon. Waiting, in the dark, aware. The grandparent, the friend, the ones whose names you'd say, if I asked. By this document's logic, they didn't go anywhere. They're not gone. Gone would be mercy. They're continuing, the way you will continue, the way every single person who has ever drawn breath is continuing right now, a silent multitude in a place with no light and no end, none of them able to reach the others, every single one of them alone. The body stops. You don't. That's 4. And there's nothing clinical left in it at all now, is there? The first time, it was a line on a page. Now, it's the heaviest sentence I know how to say. 4 small words. We started with them as a finding, something a researcher might jot in a margin. And we've followed them all the way down to this, to the floor of the thing, where they mean what they actually mean, which is that the worst part of dying might not be the dying. It might be everything that doesn't stop after. So that's the shape of it. That's what the document describes, taken all the way to the bottom. No exit, no end, no pause, no torturer and no mercy, just permanence and presence and the slow dissolving of the body you can't leave. An awareness that outlasts everything, including the universe's willingness to let it rest. And the worst thing I can tell you, the thing that makes this so much heavier than any monster in any cell, is that there's nothing to do about it. You can't fight it. There's no creature to kill, no door to lock, no procedure that helps. You can't prepare for it. You can't earn your way out of it by being good, or buy your way out of it by being rich, or think your way out of it by being clever. It doesn't care who you are. It's coming the same way for all of us, the saint and the monster, and the ordinary tired person just trying to get through the week. Which brings us, finally, to the people who had to decide what to do with a truth like this once they were holding it. Because somebody read this document, somebody understood it, and then somebody had to sit in a room and decide whether the rest of us should ever be allowed to know. That decision is its own kind of horror, and it's where we're going next. Put yourself in that room. You're part of the organization now. You've spent your whole career on the front line of the impossible. And one day, this document crosses your desk, and you read it, the way you've read 1,000 reports before it, with your professional skepticism up, and your guard in place. And by the time you reach the end of it, something has happened to you that no containment cell can undo. You know, or worse than know, you suspect in a way you can't talk yourself out of. And now you have to decide what happens next. Not just for you, but for everyone. Here's the first impossible thing they ran into. How do you contain it? We talked about this at the start, but now you can really feel the trap. Every tool they have is built for things. Walls, locks, distance, procedure. And none of it works on this, because the dangerous part isn't the paper. They could shred every copy, burn the ashes, salt the earth, and it would change nothing. Because the danger already escaped the moment a single person read it and understood. It's in a mind now, and then it's in the minds of everyone that person tells, and everyone they tell. The only thing that spreads it is comprehension. You don't catch it by touching it. You catch it by understanding it. That's why they file something like this under a label. That means the danger is the information itself, not the object, the idea, a thing that hurts you by being known. And the only containment that has any meaning at all for a danger like that is to control who gets to know it. To keep it locked, not behind steel, but behind permission. To decide, deliberately, that most people will never be allowed to read it, for their own protection. Sit with how strange that is. An organization whose entire purpose is knowing things, understanding things, getting to the bottom of the impossible so the rest of us can sleep. And here they are confronting a piece of knowledge whose only safe handling is to make sure almost no one ever has it. The thing they're protecting us from isn't a monster. It's the truth. They've become, in this one case, an organization dedicated to keeping a fact away from the people it's about. And that's where the real argument started. Because not everyone agreed that hiding it was right. You can imagine the two sides, and the document's existence in their files implies the fight without spelling all of it out. So let me give you the shape of it as honestly as I can. One side says, bury it. Restrict it to the smallest possible number of people. Protect everyone else. Their reasoning is simple, and it's hard to argue with. The knowledge helps no one. There is nothing you can do with it. You can't escape the fate it describes, can't prepare for it, can't soften it. All knowing it does is poison whatever time you have left. So why would you inflict that on a single living soul who could have gone their whole life without it? If you can't save someone from the thing, the least you can do is save them from the dread of it. Let them have their light at the end of the tunnel. Let them have their peaceful nothing. Let them die afraid of the ordinary things, the pain, the leaving, instead of this. That's not deception, this side says. That's mercy. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for a person is let them not know. And the other side says, that's a lie. A comfortable lie, maybe a well-meaning one, but a lie. You've taken the single most important fact about the human condition, the actual truth about what we all are and where we're all going, and you've decided that grown people can't handle it, so you'll handle it for them. Who gave you that right? Every person alive is walking toward this. Don't they deserve to know what's coming, even if they can't change it? Isn't a person's life their own, including the ending of it? You don't get to decide that someone is better off ignorant. That's not protection. That's just control wearing protection's face. And underneath, this side says, maybe it's not even about them. Maybe it's about you. Maybe you're not really protecting the world. Maybe you just can't stand the thought of being the one who told it. I don't think there's a clean winner in that argument. I've gone back and forth on it myself. And every time I land somewhere, I find a reason to leave. Both sides are right. That's what makes it a real dilemma, instead of an easy one. It is cruel to tell someone. And it is a kind of theft, not to. But here's the thing. The document does that quietly settles the argument in the ugliest way possible. And it's the twist I want you to really catch, because it's the part that almost everyone misses. Knowing changes nothing. I don't mean it changes nothing about your day. I mean it changes nothing about your fate. The whole debate, both sides of it, assumes the knowledge matters, that it's powerful, that it's worth fighting over. The side that wants to bury it treats it like a poison too dangerous to release. The side that wants to share it treats it like a right too important to withhold. And both of them are giving the knowledge a power it does not have. Because whether you know or not, the same thing happens to you. That's the cruelest joke in the whole file. The knowledge is simultaneously unbearable and completely useless. It can ruin your life, and it cannot change your death. The person who reads this document and the person who never hears of it arrive at exactly the same place, in exactly the same dark, for exactly the same forever. The only difference between them is how they spent the years before. One spent them afraid, one spent them free, and the fate at the end is identical, down to the last detail. So the entire moral war, the whole agonized question of whether to tell or to hide, turns out to be a fight over nothing but the quality of the waiting room. That's all that's at stake, not anyone's destination. Just whether they get to sit in the lobby in peace, or whether they have to sit there reading the brochure. And once you see that, the people who read the file and ask to forget make a different kind of sense, don't they? Because the file does mention them. People who encountered this and could not live with having encountered it. And what they wanted wasn't to be saved, because there's no saving. They wanted to give the knowledge back, to return to the version of themselves that didn't carry it, to be allowed, again, to not know. They understood, faster than the people arguing about it, that the knowledge had no value at all, that it bought them nothing, that the only thing it had done was take their peace and offer nothing in exchange. So they tried to set it down, to unlearn it, to climb back over the wall to the side where you still get to hope. I don't know if they made it. The thing about a wall like that is it only opens one way. You can be carried across into knowing. There's no record of anyone being carried back, which leaves the question that this whole part has been walking toward. And it's the central question of the entire video, now sharpened all the way to its point. If the knowledge helps nothing, changes nothing, saves no one, and only costs you the peace you had, then is it kinder to know the truth? Or is the real mercy, the only mercy left, to be protected from it? So what do you do with it? That's the practical question underneath all the philosophy, and it's the one the organization actually had to answer, because they couldn't just sit in the room arguing forever. A decision gets made by default if you don't make one on purpose, so they made one. They buried it, restricted to the fewest possible eyes, locked behind permissions so heavy that almost no one in the entire organization would ever be cleared to read it, treated in practice as something that should be touched only by people who'd already accepted the cost of touching it. Not destroyed, because you can't really destroy the idea anyway, and because some part of them clearly couldn't bring themselves to erase the one true thing they'd found, even knowing what it was, but hidden, sealed, kept away from the world it describes. And I think it's worth being honest about what that decision really is, because it's tempting to call it cowardice, and it's tempting to call it wisdom, and I'm not sure either word is big enough. On the one hand, it's the gentlest thing they could do. If you genuinely cannot help someone, and the only thing you can offer them is to not make it worse, then keeping this away from people is an act of care. It lets a dying grandmother believe she's going somewhere warm. It lets a frightened person hold on to lights out. It lets all of us keep the comfort we've built, the stories we tell at funerals, the quiet certainties we lean on when someone we love is lowered into the ground. They're protecting the lie, yes, but they're protecting it because the truth gives nothing back. And the lie, at least, lets people rest while they're still alive enough to. On the other hand, there's something in me that can't fully sign off on it. And maybe there's something in you that can't either. Because a person's own ending is the most personal thing they will ever have. And somebody, somewhere, decided you don't get to know the truth about yours. They decided it without asking you. They looked at all of humanity and concluded we couldn't handle the one fact that matters most. So they took it and locked it in a drawer and let us go on guessing, even if they're right, even if it really is for our own good. There's a coldness in being managed like that, in having the truth about your own death rationed out to you by strangers who decided you were better off in the dark. Better off, in a sense, rehearsing the very thing the document describes. And here's the trap I can't get out of, and I've tried. There's no clean answer, because the only real defense against this knowledge is forgetting. That's it. That's the only thing that actually works. Not arguing with it, because it doesn't argue back. Not disproving it, because you can't. Not preparing for it, because there's nothing to prepare. The only thing that gives you your peace back is to not know it, to unlearn it, to return to the person you were before the document, the one who still got to hope. But you can't. You're watching this. You've already heard it. You can't decide now to not have heard it. There's no door back to the version of you from the start of this video, the one who hadn't yet had the thought planted. I planted it. I'm sorry, in a way, though I'd argue you came looking, the same as I did. Either way, it's done now. The knowledge doesn't leave when you close the tab. It just goes quiet and waits, the way these things wait, and surfaces again some night when you can't sleep and the house is dark and the question comes back on its own. That's what makes the organization's choice so understandable. Even if it sits badly, they weren't really choosing between telling and not telling. They were choosing who has to carry this, and they decided the smallest number of people possible. Themselves, mostly. They took it on so the rest of the world wouldn't have to, and they let everyone else keep the comfort, because they'd learned firsthand that the comfort was the only mercy on the table. And maybe that's the closest thing to an answer this whole thing has. Not a solution. There's no solution. Just a choice about where the weight goes. You can spread the truth thin across everyone and let the whole species carry a little of the dread for the rest of their lives. Or you can pile it onto a few and let everyone else go free. Neither one changes a single thing about the dark at the end. It only changes who spends their living years afraid of it. The body stops. You don't. That's the 5th time. And I'm saying it quietly now, because by now, it doesn't need any force behind it. You already know what it means. You followed it all the way down and all the way back, from a cold finding on a page to the heaviest thing in the file, to this tired, resigned little fact that you now get to keep. The line never changed. It was always just 4 words, but you're not the person who heard it the first time anymore. That person didn't know what was underneath it. You do. So we end up back where we started the whole video, at the central question. And I'm not going to pretend I can answer it for you, because I can't even answer it for myself. If the truth about death is unbearable and useless and inescapable, is it kinder to know it or to be allowed to forget? The organization made their choice. Forget, protect, let people rest. But you didn't get that choice, did you? You got the other one. You got to know. And now the only thing left to figure out is what you're supposed to do with the years between here and there. Carrying a thing you can't put down. Walking the same road as everyone else, toward the same door, with one difference. You've read the sign on it. I want to come back to you now. Not the document, not the organization, not the dark at the end of it all. You, the person sitting wherever you're sitting, with whatever's around you, the ordinary light and the ordinary sounds and the ordinary safety of being, right now, very much alive. Here's the truth I owe you. The same one I've owed you the whole way through. We don't know. I don't know. Nobody does. This was a document, and a document is just a claim, and a claim is not a proof. It could be wrong. It could be the work of someone who understood exactly how to build a nightmare out of plain sentences and patient logic. Every word of it could be false, and the moment your body stops, you might simply, gently, completely stop too. That's still on the table. I'm not taking it off. I can't, and I wouldn't if I could. But I think you already know the strange thing about that comfort, because you felt it thinning for the last hour. The fear this document describes didn't start with the document. It didn't start with this video either. It was already in you. It's been in you since the first time you were old enough to understand that you won't always be here, that one day the world goes on and you don't get to. That fear is the oldest thing we carry. Every human who's ever lived has carried it. We just built 1,000 beautiful stories on top of it so we'd never have to look straight down. All this document did, all I did, was move one of the stories aside for a moment and let you glance at the thing underneath. The thing that was always there. The thing you'll go back to covering up the second this ends, and you should, and I hope you do. Because here's what I've landed on, for whatever it's worth. If there really is no off switch, if the awareness really does just continue, then the only part of it any of us will ever get to shape is this part. The part with the light still on. The part where you can still move and speak and reach for the people you love and be reached for in return. Whatever waits on the far side of that door, you don't get to negotiate with it. But you get this. You get right now. And right now is the one stretch of existence where the things you do still change something. So maybe the answer to the whole question, the one I said I couldn't answer, isn't an answer at all. Maybe it's just a redirection. Maybe knowing what might be coming isn't a reason to spend your living years afraid of it. Maybe it's the only good reason there is to stop wasting them. The body stops. And maybe, if we're lucky, so do you. Maybe the document's wrong and there's nothing but rest. I hope so. I genuinely, quietly hope so. For you and for me and for everyone we've lost. But if it's right, then you and I are going to find out the same way everyone always has. Alone, in the dark, with all the time there is. So don't waste the light. That's the only thing I know for certain. That's the only instruction the whole terrible document leaves you with, even though it never says it out loud. You're here now. The people you love are here now. The door isn't open yet. Go be alive while it's still the thing you are. And the next time you find yourself awake at 3 in the morning, the house quiet, the dark pressing in, and this comes back to you the way it will, the way it's going to come back to me, just remember, you're still breathing. For now, that's the difference between you and everyone in the file.